On this episode of In the Gun, it's time to get ready for another Phil Steele Friday, the Mountaineers and the Knights, and a big weekend across the Big 12. All of that and more on this episode of ITG.
You are now watching Believe.
ITG.
With special guest, Phil Steele.
Author of the College Football Bible.
He can see things before they happen. It's a Jedi trait.
All you gotta do is bet on the winner and you'll never lose.
Mountaineer Nation.
You are In the Gun.
Hey, a real pleasure being on. Thanks for having me on the In the Gun podcast.
In the Gun, episode 290 of your new favorite WVU football podcast. I am Wes Uhler, live from a hotel room in Cincinnati, and I've got the signal caller, Jed Drenning, with me. I do want to make sure if my audio doesn't sound quite as sharp, as clear, as crisp as it usually does. I am in a hotel room here. We're doing this on location as I've got the Steelers and the Bengals tonight here at Paycor Stadium for my day job. But we have got a Phil Steele Friday here to tee us up for a big weekend of college football. Not only some big games in the top 25, but of course, as always, we're getting to that point in the calendar where the conference roads, the conference races are narrowing. So some big games in the Big 12 as well, too, that we are going to discuss with Phil. All of that and more on tap here today. In the Gun is brought to you in part by Bet Online. The game starts here. By the good people at Toothman Ford. Big shout out to JR and everybody there at Team Toothman. We all know cars cost less in Grafton. A big thank you to Rick Lewis and Fortis for being a big part of everything we do here on ITG. For roof performance and financial certainty guaranteed, you got to visit fortis.us.com. And by Johnston Equipment, getting ready for a peach lot party with the good people at Johnston Equipment. Make sure you're checking them out, Route 33 between Weston and Buchanan. You can also always visit them online at Johnston, that's Johnston with a T, JohnstonEQ.com. And our friends at the Book Exchange. Get all your WVU apparel at the Book Exchange. Shop their two locations. Of course, downtown Morgantown, also on Pass and Drive in Evansdale. You can always shop online at bookexchangewv.com. And when you do, either in-store or online, maybe you're getting some Coal Rush gear for the TCU game, make sure you use that promo code INTHEGUN20 for 20% off your order on your good friends at ITG. Jed, before we get to Phil, you and I did the UCF preview earlier in the week, but you kind of made a good point. One thing we didn't talk about was kind of just the status, the injury updates with some of the banged up Mountaineers. And we do know that Ty Edwards is in Alabama, I believe, correct? Right? Getting that hip injury checked out.
Yeah, that's something that is obviously worth discussing for a minute. It's nagging. They don't know why. It's something he struggled to overcome. He's putting in the effort. He's putting in the time in the training room. It just hasn't gotten back at the point where by now they would have hoped it would have done so. And again, we all saw what he did against that Pitt defense, and that Pitt defense, as it turns out, against the run is pretty salty. We now halfway through the season can recognize that. So Ty Edwards could be a critical part of what we're trying to do with this run game. But once again, it appears that that's not going to be the case against UCF. But we do have Sincere Bowers back, so that's one more name in the fold. And it's kind of exciting when you look at probably our two faster backs, Dior Hubbard and Sincere Bowers. So maybe we can pop one or two and make our life a little easier than having to drive against this UCF defense.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I think we all know just in big picture for this season and right now, certainly, but even just big picture, how important a successful run game is to Rich Rod's offense and to everything that they're trying to do. And yeah, getting some health, getting some consistency in that department, especially against, as we discussed on the preview, Jed, this is a UCF defense that can be pretty salty at times in their own right. Yeah, we could really use some health and some good fortune in that department in the backfield for sure.
And if you're Ty Edwards, you didn't go through what he's gone through thinking that, this time last year he thought he was playing his final college football season when he was at Northern Iowa. And then he spent the offseason taking advantage of the rule changes to try and fight the NCAA to get this extra year. You didn't go through all that to miss half the season.
Right.
And that wasn't obviously by design.
Yeah.
He's frustrated for obvious reasons. He wants to get back on the football field and put a cherry on top of the portfolio that he can build to maybe move on to some bigger things after college. But yeah, it's frustrated him. We need that big body in the run game because right now that's what's lacking, that big physical presence. We don't have anybody else of his stature or his size. So it sure will be nice to get him back. But once again, it doesn't appear it's going to be this week.
Well, hopefully sooner rather than later for everybody's sake, and of course for his as well too. Jed, let's get to our first break here. On the other side, we will tee up the college football weekend with Phil Steele across the top 25, across the Big 12 Conference. We'll talk about it all with the czar of college football when we return. Wes Uhler, Jed Drenning, you are in the gun.
For nearly 20 years, Fortis has been the nation's leader in providing guaranteed roof performance programs for commercial buildings. Fortis offers roof performance solutions that feature extensive initial and ongoing reconditioning for commercial buildings as an alternative to traditional replacement, with long-term performance guarantees that are backed by global leader Lloyd's of London. Fortis offers a comprehensive range of roof performance management programs that provide financial security, extend the life of our customers' roofs, and make a significant impact on ROI. Fortis is currently improving performance and increasing ROI for customers at more than 4,800 locations, with more than 140 million square feet protected, including many Fortune 500 companies that have turned to Fortis to save money, gain financial certainty, and extend the life of their existing roofs. Fortis has helped customers save more than $520 million in capital roof replacement costs for an average ROI of over 250%. To learn more, visit fortis.us.com. Fortis, roof performance and financial certainty guaranteed.
Nobody supports the blue and gold Mountaineers like Toothman Ford. With over 20 NIL deals and counting, Toothman Ford continues to rally behind our student athletes. And it's time we rally and support the dealer that supports the Mountaineers. Not only does Toothman Ford offer the best prices in the state on pre-owned, their never over MSRP campaign on new Fords guaranteed to save you thousands. Drive with pride all season long, knowing you're supporting the dealer that fuels our Mountaineers. Toothman Ford, where cars cost less, in Grafton and at toothmanford.com.
Back in the gun here as we roll along, getting ready for another big weekend in college football and in the Big 12. Joining us now, as always, to discuss it all, it is the czar of college football himself, Phil Steele. Phil, thank you for taking the time as always. Hope all is well.
Oh, everything's doing great, Wes. How about you?
Hey, I cannot complain. Doing this in out of my hotel room in Cincinnati, so not in my usual confines, but we're making it work. Always love to get a chance to chat with you and tee up another big weekend of college football here. And let's get right into it. Big one in the SEC here, Phil, with some veteran quarterbacks as well, too, as LSU travels to Vanderbilt.
Yeah, this one's really interesting. You see the line on the game and you see Vanderbilt's favored and you're like, what? I think it's like the first time in 75 years that Vanderbilt's been favored over LSU.
Wow.
And this one to me is really tough to call. My computer and all the numbers say Vanderbilt's a better team. Vanderbilt should be favored. That's why Vegas has them favored. Diego Pavia is having a fantastic year. They've already beaten South Carolina 31-7. The same team LSU only beat 20-10. But keep in mind, in that game, South Carolina lost their starting quarterback, Lenora Sellers, in the first quarter when the game was 7-7, and it was different after that. Vandy's been a great story this year. They played Alabama tougher than the final score would indicate. Of course, gave up that late touchdown at the end, which I was happy for because I had Bama in that one, and so I appreciated that. But I got to think LSU, when you look at the overall talent between these two teams, a slight talent advantage, should have a good amount of the crowd here in Vanderbilt, like most visiting SEC teams do. So I'm going to lean with LSU to pull the upset here.
Well, USC took care of Michigan, dispatched them pretty quickly, 31-13 last week, coming off that big win. They're facing Notre Dame, heading to face the Irish on the road. Marcus Freeman, meanwhile, has been mentioned in this whole situation at Penn State. Can Notre Dame avoid the distractions as a heavy favorite? I have them at 9.5 being favored, the Irish. What do you think plays out with Notre Dame and the Trojans in South Bend?
Not sure why Marcus Freeman would go to Penn State from Notre Dame. Seems like Notre Dame is one of the top jobs in college football. But, when I look at this matchup, I think it's going to be a great game because USC, as you mentioned, Jed, last week, everybody thought Michigan's going to come in, control the line of scrimmage. No. USC dominated the line of scrimmage against the line of scrimmage team in Michigan, had a 224 to 109 rushing edge. And that was despite the fact, it was an amazing story. They lost their top two running backs. Their number three running back wasn't even supposed to play. He was listed as out. He was in street clothes at the start of the game. They brought him back for the second half, and they went with a walk-on and King Miller, and King Miller ran the ball down the throat of Michigan. So that tells you a little bit about USC's offensive line. This is a really good team. Jade Maava having a great year, 13-2 ratio. But I just think Notre Dame's the stronger team. And the amazing stat with USC, they are 1-14 straight up and against the spread when traveling to the Eastern or Central time zone. Look at last year. They lost at Michigan, at Minnesota, at Maryland. Every time they came over, and even this year, barely got past Purdue, didn't cover, and then, of course, lost to Illinois. A game Illinois fumbled twice into the end zone. So I'm just very impressed with Notre Dame. In the opener against Miami of Florida, they didn't really get their running backs, Love and Price, going, but those two have been dynamic ever since. They've got the defense. I know folks were knocking their defense early, but they are holding opponents to 122 yards per game below their average, number 13 in the country. So I'm just going to go with the more complete team at home, especially laying single digits in this one. I think they should be at least a 10-point favorite.
Well, we've got a top 10 matchup in Athens, Phil. The college game day game this week is Georgia. Number 9, Georgia hosts number 5, Ole Miss. Georgia, a 7.5-point favorite. I like this quarterback, Trinidad Chambliss from Ole Miss. Trinidad Magic, they're calling it down there. But does he have enough juice? Do they have enough juice to go between the hedges there in Athens and pull off an upset?
Yeah, and Trinidad's coming from Division II, and it's interesting. If you go back this year, and Jed will vouch for this, when I've talked about a lot of quarterbacks making their first road start, and while Trinidad made some road starts in Division II, nothing like the crowd he's going to see here in Sanford Stadium between the hedges. So first road start for him. Georgia's playing with legitimate revenge in this game. And also, when you look at this matchup, Georgia's got a lot of good things in their favor. When you look at Ole Miss, they tend to struggle on the road. Georgia is outstanding at home against top 10 teams. They're 6-1 against the spread. In the series, the last 7 home games that Georgia's had against Ole Miss, they've not only won them all, they've won them by 24 points per game, and they're playing with legitimate revenge. Last year, Ole Miss actually beat them at the line of scrimmage. So I think this is really a good situation for Georgia at home, and I think Trinidad Chambliss is going to struggle a little bit against this defense. I like Georgia minus the points.
In the SEC, Phil, we got Alabama and Tennessee, a battle of two ranked teams. Tennessee is almost perfect on the season in their own right. That 3-point loss to Georgia handful of weeks ago. Since then, they've regrouped and won 3 straight. Last week, knocked off kind of a rudderless Arkansas team. But Alabama, meanwhile, what a run they are on. Since that opening day loss to Florida State, which all of a sudden doesn't look so good, in recent weeks, 3 wins over 3 ranked teams. Georgia, Vandy, on the road at Missouri last week. Ty Simpson, what mistake-free football he's playing. 16 touchdowns, 1 pick, looked really sharp on the road against the Tigers last week. But they're laying a heavy number. What do you see playing out in Tuscaloosa with the Tide and the Vols this week?
Yeah, I like both quarterbacks. I like both offenses. Of course, both teams lost their top running back last week to injury, and hopefully both can play. And Jam Miller for Alabama and Deshaun Bishop for Tennessee. I think they both will play here. But Alabama's got the better defense. If you look at the pass defense rankings, Alabama near the top, Tennessee sort of near the bottom, and Tennessee just 1-6 as an away dog under Josh Heupel. As you mentioned, when you look at the two quarterbacks, you go back to Aguilar for Tennessee. When he was at App State last year, he had some problems with turnovers, and he's had 5 interceptions this year. Ty Simpson's been mistake-free. Now, he did have that fumble, the sack fumble against Missouri, which basically handed Missouri 7 points last week at the start of the second quarter. But other than that, he's playing flawless football. I think we got the better defense with Alabama. We're at home in this game. Tennessee struggles on the road. I like Alabama minus the points in this one.
It is Phil Steele Friday here in the gun as we move into the Big 12. I think two surprising teams in a good way this year, Phil. Arizona at 4-2, Houston at 5-1. This game in Texas. Arizona a 1.5 point road favorite. This is kind of feels like one of those separation type games for these two teams. How you see this one playing out?
Yeah, and I was pretty happy with Arizona last week. They were up 24-14 in the fourth quarter. Felt pretty good about that game because I had Arizona over BYU, and then, of course, they give up the late touchdown to go to overtime and end up losing that thing. But I was impressed overall. Arizona played a really good game. Houston, of course, last year was 4-8, but still had one of the best defenses in the Big 12. They held opponents to 75 yards per game to below their average, which is actually number 13 in the country. They still have a solid defense, but at least this year they have an offense to go along with it. Connor Wegman at QB. They got Dean Connors they brought over from Rice. And so a much improved offense this year. They're at home for this one. I think it's going to be a great game. Probably one of those coin flip games. Little surprised Arizona's the road favorite. I would have said the two teams are even, give Houston a 3-point edge. So with that said, I'm going to lean with the Cougars at home as the underdog.
We get the Blue Bonnet battle, the rivalry between two 4-2 teams, Baylor and TCU. It almost feels like whoever wins this is going to be in a pretty good spot with some momentum to head into the second half of the season, and whoever loses it is going to be in a chase position for the second half of the season. TCU has really struggled to run the football. Josh Hoover, explosive, incredible, the things they've been done offensively, but Baylor feels like the more well-rounded offensive team. I don't know if either defense steps up, but a lot of storylines in this one. What do you see playing out with the Bears and the Frogs?
Yeah, and it's surprising because, when you think of Sonny Dykes, you think of offense. When you think of Dave Aranda, you think of defense. But TCU's got the better defense. I mean, Baylor's allowing opponents 99 yards per game above their average. But Baylor does have the better offense. Sawyer Robertson just ripping it up. 19 touchdowns, only 4 interceptions. They're averaging 135 yards above what the opponents allow. Bryson Washington looks great at running back. I've been waiting for that number 2 running back to emerge. It looks like Caden Knighton might be that guy. We'll see if he can start handling a little bit more of the load in the second half of the season. But dynamic receiver with Cameron and Trigg. So offense goes to Baylor, defense to TCU. TCU's at home for this one. But I still think Baylor's a slightly better team. I was very impressed with TCU against North Carolina, but everybody's impressive against North Carolina this year. The SMU game, they needed 2 late touchdowns to win that by 11. They blew the Arizona State game. Colorado was actually 21-21. And they were punting the football. The ball went off the Colorado player's back, and they recovered, got the touchdown, then scored another touchdown in the final seconds to have a very misleading 14-point win. And then last week lost to Kansas State by 13. So been more impressed with the body of work for Baylor. I'm going to call for Baylor to pull the upset here.
A tale of two programs moving in opposite directions. Oklahoma State 1-5, going to be hiring a new coach. Cincinnati 5-1 into the top 25. Phil, I don't ever think I've seen a number like this, 21.5. Who would have ever thought that Oklahoma State would be 3 touchdown underdogs at home? But that's where they find themselves against Cincinnati this weekend. Does Cincinnati really roll into Stillwater and blow out the Cowboys?
Yeah, and if you go back in the past, you'd have to think maybe an Oklahoma or a Texas might have this type of favoritism. But Cincinnati was actually one of my surprise teams in the Big 12 this year. After the first 2 years where Satterfield had like the number 120 and number 125 experienced team, this year he's got the number 25 most experienced team. Brendan Sorsby's there at quarterback. They've got 2 Big Ten running backs. Evan Pryor came over from Ohio State, Tyree Walker from Wisconsin. Both look good. They've got the receiving core, and this is a complete Cincinnati team and one that will be towards the top of the Big 12. And it's just a dumpster fire right now at Oklahoma State. You could see the things happening because after spring practice was over, Gundy wasn't happy with the rebuilt team that he had, went out and signed another 25 transfers to come in. And when you're bringing in 25 players after spring practice, you're going to struggle. And look what's happened. Now they don't have Gundy as the head coach anymore. There's probably a lot of disarray going on. The only question mark I have is last week Cincinnati led UCF handily. They were up 20-3 and then sort of took their foot off the gas pedal in the second half. They've got a big game against Baylor on deck. Do they take their foot off the gas pedal in the second half here? But the only way you can play the game is to take Cincinnati minus the points here.
You got Texas Tech on the road at Arizona State. Now, Arizona State quarterback Sam Levitt is trending to play, listed as probable. Probable. That's probably the impact that we've seen on that line. That line has moved down a little bit. Started pretty chunky early in the week. Last I saw, it was down to 9.5. The Red Raiders are giving. Texas Tech, clearly the best team, maybe in the Big 12 on paper. I don't even know if there's a maybe about it. But at the same time, when things are pretty clear on paper is when Arizona State seems to respond. They circle the wagons. Kenny Dillingham, this is the type of game that they seem to show up for, is what I'm getting at. Do you see any chance that the Devils out in the desert pull an upset against Texas Tech at home?
Yeah, I think there is that possibility, Jed. And the line has come all the way down to 7.5 this morning, and even some sevens out there. And you would expect that with Leavitt coming back. And, even last week, you look at the Utah game, they did have 23 first downs in that game. They had 4 long drives, actually at the time of possession edge, and that was with the backup quarterback in Jeff Sims. They're the defending Big 12 champs. They're at home. They're an underdog. Nobody's giving them any respect this week. Yeah, this would be a circle the wagons game for me for Arizona State. Now, as you mentioned, Texas Tech looks like the best team in the Big 12. That fourth quarter they had against Utah to win that thing 34-10 after entering the fourth quarter 10-10 really stood out. They've got the defense. Offensively, Cam Dickey, wow, he looked great last week. So this is a complete team at Texas Tech. Tough to go against, but I'd have to lean with Arizona State in this one to potentially pull the upset. We'll see how it should be a much better game than expected.
Phil, I'm a little biased guy. I think Jed would agree with me on this one. I mean, we all know the best rivalry nickname in college sports is the backyard brawl, obviously.
Yes.
But I think the second best rivalry nickname in college sports is the Holy War. And man, do we have a Holy War on tap for this weekend. Number 15 and undefeated BYU hosts number 23 Utah. Utah, a 3.5-point favorite in Provo. Can they knock in there and walk in there, pardon me, and give the Cougs their first loss of the season?
Yeah, and I've watched BYU every game this season, and they still haven't blown me away. Like I mentioned last week, they were down 24-14 in the fourth quarter, somehow pulled that out. Only beat West Virginia by 14, Colorado by 3. And Bear Bachmeier, 8 touchdown passes, 3 interceptions. Good. But I think last week he only hit 12 out of 29 passes against Arizona. When you look at Utah, the thing I like about them is the line of scrimmage. They have one of the best offensive lines in the country. They've got a pair of first-round draft picks at the tackle spots. Defensively, they've got an outstanding front seven that can get after you. Devin Dampier in that offense is electric. And, Dampier was contained by Texas Tech, but I think he'll have success here. And then the final factor, Utah actually felt they had that game stolen from them last year. They were really upset at some officials' calls in the final plays, which cost them to win at home. So they're playing with legitimate revenge. I just think Utah's the better team. Take away the fourth quarter against Texas Tech, and you're like, wow, they'd probably be a 7-point favorite here. So I think you're still getting some value from that fourth quarter against Texas Tech. I like Utah here.
Now, Phil, for this week's main event, 2 struggling teams in the Big 12, West Virginia on the road at UCF, both trying to do what they can to chalk up their first league win, both on losing streaks entering the season. And this is a situation, Wes and I were talking about all the different key areas and metrics in which these teams are so even, including exactly the same number of penalty yards. Turnover margin is almost even. When's the last time you saw a game, Phil, in which you didn't know who the starting quarterback was going to be on either side, as either coach hasn't really named one? What do you see playing out with West Virginia on the road against the Knights?
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the head. And my computer, when it looks at it in Big 12 play, it has a AGG system, an average game grade, which has nothing to do with the starting number. It only takes into account your opponents, who have you played, and then not just the scores of the game, but the yards rushing, yards passing, etc. Well, in Big 12 play, while UCF is 0-3, they are plus 31 yards per game. And in Big 12 play while 0-3, West Virginia is minus 158 yards per game. So the computer, in that respect, actually thinks UCF has been playing better in the Big 12. But as you mentioned, I mean, who's going to be the quarterback for UCF? Scott Frost has probably close to as many transfers coming in as West Virginia did. And so these are two very similar teams in must-win situations. It's a good shot. I mean, if you look at the rest of the schedule for West Virginia, better get this one, huh? Because TCU, at Houston, at Arizona State, Texas Tech, there's a lot of tough games coming up on the schedule. It's going to be a fun one to watch.
No, it certainly is, and a lot of that conversation will center around the quarterbacks. But I also think we've seen both of these defenses at times have a lot of success this season. Phil, I think WVU earlier in the year, UCF more recently. Do you give one side a decisive advantage on the defensive side of the football?
Well, numbers wise, UCF is holding opponents to 68 yards per game below their average. West Virginia is allowing foes 12 above their average. So in those ranking wise, you'd have to think UCF has a slight edge. But West Virginia gets more pressure on the quarterback. They got 13 sacks this year. UCF only has 8. West Virginia has a better rush defense, allowing 3.7. UCF 4.1. So I'd give the slightest edges to UCF there.
I like it. I like it. Phil, it was a pleasure as always. Man, a really great weekend of games and some rivalry games across the conference and across the country. Thanks for teeing it up for us as always. Appreciate your time.
Hey, a lot of fun as always, guys. Have yourself a great weekend.
You as well, Phil. Thank you. We'll wrap this thing up on the other side. You are in the gun.
When the sun's just rising and the work won't wait, you need the equipment that works just as hard as you do. Johnson Equipment delivers power, performance, and reliability day in, day out. Whether you're plowing fields, hauling loads, or planting the future, our tractors are built to take it and then some. Strong, reliable, ready. 0% financing available for up to 84 months on select models.
Johnson Equipment, farming made easy.
Get all your Mountaineer gear in WVU apparel at the Book Exchange. They're the locally owned and operated retailer with more than 90 years of selling everything you need for game day and everything else you need to show you're the ultimate WVU fan. Shop at their 2 locations at downtown Morgantown or Evansdale on Pattison Drive, or online at bookexchangewv.com.
When shopping online at bookexchangewv.com, be sure to enter code INTHEGUN20 at checkout for an awesome savings of 20%. That's right, 20%.
Back in the gun and great stuff. Great conversation with Phil Steele as always, with the czar of college football. Always enjoy the once or twice a year that I get to slide in to fill in for you or Schuyler here and get to chop it up with Phil. Always a vast wealth of knowledge from Phil Steele as we get ready for another big college football weekend. But Jed, before we do that, we've got to recap some pick'em and get into our normal Friday picks and selections and thoughts here as well too.
First of all, Owen wasn't available for the preview, so we want to give his pick of the week. He actually picks the Mountaineers to rush for the most yards in the Big 12 this week. And quickly to recap some fan picks from last week. We had a few fans get a few right, starting with Kevin Fuller from Harmony, North Carolina. He got the scoring offense right with Texas Tech. He also got the rushing offense right from with Texas Tech. And he actually entered twice as Kevin and as he must be watching Owen's barbecue show because he entered the other one as Owen's Wieners. All right. Owen made the what was the coleslaw this week to keep the cool from Florida sun.
That's right.
And then Landon from Harmony, North Carolina, was the only other listener to get one right, and that was TCU. And by the way, Kevin got TCU right as well. So
nice.
That was last week's Beat the Crew picks. And once again, jump on X or pinned tweet and enter your picks for this week to beat the crew. Like I said, Owen picks the rushing offense. We made the rest of our picks on the preview episode. But now let's roll with this week's props for ITG.
Prop bets,
you're
baby.
Standing in for Schuyler. So Schuyler usually does pretty well with these things. Let's take a look. All right. Number 1 out of 3. We talked about it in the preview. One of the many curious areas that they are pretty much a draw, West Virginia and UCF. Penalty yards, exactly 340 each. Which team will have more penalty yards, UCF or West Virginia?
Are you talking more penalty yards accepted or more penalty yards called on them?
Oh, just accepted. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not digging the play-by-play for this one. I'll just be checking the game box. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with UCF. Unfortunately, I'm gonna go with the Knights on this one.
More? They'll have more.
They'll have more accepted. So like more called on WVU is what I'm saying.
I see what you're saying. I'm going the other way.
Okay.
Enforced against you. Enforced against you. Who will have more enforced against you?
Okay. Then WVU is my answer. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm worried about some holding calls and some procedural stuff with the offensive line.
I'll make it interesting. I'll switch it up. I'll go with UCF, the homestanding Knights. They don't like to be called the Golden Knights, and they don't like to be called Central Florida. They like to be called UCF and like to be called the Knights. Okay. All right. Now, we talked also in the preview. When it comes to one-possession games, that's been the bugaboo throughout the career of Scott Frost as a head coach. He's only won 20% at UCF and at Nebraska as a head coach in one-possession games. Rich, meanwhile, has won nearly 56% of his one-possession games. Will this turn out to be a one-possession game? There's no guarantees in life, but it would certainly seem to favor West Virginia. If it is, will it turn out to be a one-possession game?
Yes. I'm going with yes on this one.
You're going with yes on this one?
I am going with yes, one possession game. And that counts as 8 points. Up to 8 points is a one-possession game, all right?
That's correct. That is correct. Thank you for clarifying. I'm going to say no. I'm going to say we win by 10. How about that?
I mean, I like that better. I hope you're
West
right.
Virginia goes on the road and finds a way to win by 10. All right, and then finally, number 3. All right. Rich has commented on the quarterback situation this week with the injuries. Most of the reps at practice are going to the young Bucks, Khalil Wilkins and Scotty Fox. Against UCF, of course, you could see a Max Brown appearance as well. But which of the young quarterbacks will log more snaps against UCF? Will it be Khalil Wilkins or will it be Scotty Fox? Of those two, which will log more snaps? Who will?
Khalil Wilkins. Final answer.
Okay. Khalil for Wes. I was going to pick Scotty anyway, so that makes that one easy. So,
dang it.
There you go. You're standing in for Schuyler, so I hope you miss all 3.
That's right. I'm sure you do. But that is good. We'll go opposite on all of our answers there. That'll be fun for you and Schuyler to recap. Well, fun if it goes your way, at least, certainly.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
In next week's episode. But that will do it for this. That'll do it for ITG this week. This edition of Phil Steele Friday. Of course, now that is all that is left here is the Mountaineers and the Knights, the UCF Knights at the Acrisure Bounce House, 1:00 there on Saturday. For Jed Drenning, I'm Wes Uhler. Big thanks to the beer truck and to Schuyler Callihan, our co-host and producer. As always, the one thing that we ask of you is to be an ear and tell an ear about your new favorite WVU football podcast. Take care, everybody. Have a good weekend. Let's go Mountaineers. Let's go get it done. You've been in the gun.
ITG.
The fun doesn't have to stop here.
Be sure to hit subscribe and never miss an episode.
If you have any questions, suggestions, or feedback,
be sure to follow us on X at In the Gun Podcast.
Join us again next time.
Until then,
tell an ear to tell an ear about your new favorite WVU football podcast.
This mission is over. It's over.